hello, hello. I bid you welcome, hope you enjoy the show. Hello, 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 hello. Claim your fortune, tell me what you've been sold. Hello, 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 hello.
Blog Talk Radio. Your shoe will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome everyone, it's Wednesday night and our show is What is Truth, and we are recording this obviously on audio, but we are also going to be recording this for our TV show that we do, because we use the audio when we bring it into our show. We're going to be having on our shows, we have 4 cable shows that we play in the Framingham area. So what I thought we would do in our shows now was we would record them on MP3s, and then I would make a video out of them, like a lot of people are doing. If you ever notice on the internet, David Duke does it now. He takes his audio shows, they put them up on the on YouTube, and they just put pictures in and things like that, and becomes a video show on YouTube. And I think you know, all the people that have shows out there might want to think about doing this, because you're already doing it. You might as well take advantage of YouTube in the video aspect of it. So we can take advantage of our audio show here. Then we can take advantage of our video cable show that's on TV, actually, that goes out to, you know, thousands and upon thousands of people in our community. And then we have YouTube also to do that. So we're very happy that we can do that. We encourage other people to look into doing that too.
Let me say something. And the reason why this is a good idea, if people are able to do it, because we know a lot of people can't do this, you got to remember, you know, Blog Talk Radio is to a specific group of people. You know, you don't get your mom and dads, and you know, a lot of people, they don't come on the internet to get this type of stuff. But if stuff can be on cable, and you got to remember, people put their TVs on just as background. They may be doing something else, washing dishes or doing something. It's the audio that's a real concern that people have to hear. So when we can put, like for instance, this program, if we could put this on cable TV, and you know, put pictures and stuff, people are there, they can obviously watch it, but you know, they don't have to really be in the room. They could actually be listening to it. So it gives a great advantage to people. You got to remember, every town or county or place that has cable TV, this is where we can really put the fires. I mean, we'll set fires, and you know, right now they got, you know, everybody doing their. This is my opinion. They got everybody doing the blog talks, and we get the steam, you know, get the steam out, and you know, get to say stuff, and we feel good, you know, and this and that. And maybe, you know, this is a ploy by them, you know, to keep us without getting involved in, you know, riots or some type of civil disobedience, you know.
Well, to getting the people worked
up. Well, at the State House or at our towns and this and that. So here we are, we're sitting, you know, just talking, you know, getting our message across. But if you do things and you take it to your town level, oh my God, you can't believe the things that start to happen. You know, local newspapers will take up stuff, will write about you, and so you don't know where it's going to go. See, this is why, if we light all these fires, the ADL, the SPLC, they can't put out all these fires. They can't. They don't have enough people to do it. So each individual town or county or where we have cable, if you have it and you have the ability, and you know, maybe the programs, like we have the program called Power Director, you know, you can get it for less than $100 off online. Use it. You can put a program together, make it your own, and that's it. When you do your program, you got a program that you can technically put on cable, play it once a week or play it once a month, and it's a great advantage to get these people. You know, you have to get people mad as hell at you sometimes to get them to do things, and this is how our government works. It doesn't work, you know.
Well, it's actually, you might not even get people to do things, but you want to put them on notice to let people know what's going on. So that's, again, we're not going to dwell too much on that, but that's what we encourage you to do, and hopefully you'll do it. Well, anyway, our show tonight is going to deal with a subject talking about the power of the county sheriff. And, you know, we have the police and we have the sheriffs, and sometimes people think that they're basically the same type of, you know, enforcement agency. Well, you know, in our investigation of things, and just by what we've learned, we've seen that it couldn't be farther from the truth. One is more geared to the Constitution, and the other isn't. So we're going to discuss that tonight. But before we do that, we're going to actually, I have a couple videos that we're going to play. They're going to be audio here, obviously. And we're gonna play two videos, because one is Sheriff Mack. He's going to be talking, and the second one, he was talking when he was out in Lexington in our way. So we thought we'd play that one too. There's about you know about 17 minutes worth of video, I believe, there on all of them. So we're going to play them, and then we're going to talk later about them. So and then we'll have a little break in between here and there too. So the first one, the first video. Audio you're going to hear anyway is going to be Sheriff Mack. If you hear it pause, that's because there's a space in between. There's writing coming up on the screen, you know, for the people watching the video. So you just have to bear with it. It might be a second or 2 seconds pause when he stops. But I think you're going to get the point. So the first one is Sheriff Mack again. He's going to be speaking about the power of the county sheriff. So let's go to that one right now.
My name is Richard Mack, and I'm the former sheriff of Graham County, Arizona. Is the only elected law enforcement officer in the United States, and certainly in his county. So he's the only official that reports directly to the power source. In other words, he's not a bureaucrat. He wasn't appointed by some other body. He reports directly to we, the people. And so he is sovereign in that regard, because he reports directly to the other sovereigns. And that's why the sheriff is the ultimate authority. He's not a bureaucrat from Washington, D.C. The President of the United States cannot tell your sheriff what to do. And so certainly none of the other auxiliary departments underneath the President can tell the sheriff what to do, and that includes the IRS, the EPA, OSHA, FBI, DEA. Any of those agencies cannot tell the sheriff what to do. But when they're in his sovereign jurisdiction, he can tell them what to do. The question is, will he? It's really alarming how many peace officers, policemen, law enforcement officers, sheriffs, chiefs of police, who have actually taken an oath of office to uphold and defend, protect and preserve the United States Constitution. And then when you present them with that thought or idea that that's exactly what they should be doing, they claim that it isn't their job to uphold and defend the Constitution that which they've already sworn an oath to do. And so that's what really I find very disturbing. But I think it's the evolution that has taken place in our country today. And also it's a result or a consequence or a branch of what's wrong with America. America is off track. We have replaced our Constitution, which was the bulwark of our freedom in this country, with political agendas, political selfishness, and ultimately political correctness has replaced our Constitution. And so is it any wonder that we're so far off track? And my message is law enforcement owns part of that problem, and we need to correct it. No, the governor and the sheriff are pretty much equal. The governor is the sovereign leader over the state. The sheriff would probably supersede the governor within his county because he is the ultimate protector of the people within his jurisdiction. He can't let anybody violate the Constitution in his county. He cannot allow anyone to violate the rights of the people within his jurisdiction. It doesn't matter if it's the governor or the president, the IRS, FBI. He is in charge of protecting the constitutional freedoms of his jurisdiction. The governor, yeah, oversees the state, and he very powerful, and they are equal in some ways and have the same responsibility to the people who elect them, and that is to uphold and defend their Constitution. I was probably the first sheriff in the United States to sue the federal government for doing that very thing, for promulgating a bill or law or statute that directly commandeers the sheriff for federal bidding. As I look back, you know, I'm really grateful that we won a case at the United States Supreme Court, and I still have yet to see if throughout American history that there's been another case won at the Supreme Court by a sheriff, by a sitting sheriff. Sheriff Prince and I ended up taking this case all the way to the Supreme Court. We won on this very issue of state sovereignty, local autonomy, and the power of the county. And so when the or any other legislative body passes a law, a supposed law, that forces the sheriff to violate his oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution, what does he do? And Judge Roll, in my case, actually said that Sheriff Mack is thus forced to choose between keeping his oath or obeying the act. And I think he nailed it right on the head there. That's the key question. What does all of law enforcement and what do all the sheriffs across the country do when a statute forces them to violate their constitutional oath? Well, I think it's easy. You keep your word to your oath. That's the ultimate law. The supreme law of the land is the Constitution. Nothing supersedes the Constitution. So let's put it back in its proper place. And I would say there was a sheriff from Montana that did not join the lawsuit who I agree with. He did it the right way. He just said no. He said, we're not doing the Brady bill in this county. And that was, I believe, Sheriff Nixon. And as I look back, I wish that that's what we had done. After looking back at my lawsuit and the subsequent victory in the U.S. Supreme Court, that I wish the sheriffs in Arizona had simply all signed a letter unitedly and sent it back to Washington, D.C., to the White House, and CC it over to the Congress and the Justice Department, letting them know we're not doing the Brady bill in Arizona, and thank you very much for your efforts, but it won't be applied here. Yeah, that was a very powerful case, disavowed by the judge in the case, by the way, but it was a requirement of the settlement in the case that Sheriff Mattis devise a way to make sure that the federal government couldn't come in and do what they did to the Castaneda family, trying to arrest them. Well, they did arrest them at 1 o'clock in the morning for being illegal immigrants. And course, nobody's trying to do that now when we have them all over the place, but the thing of it was, the Castañedas required that as part of their settlement. And Dave Mattis actually came up with the idea, and they were obeying it. The federal government was obeying it, and other counties in Wyoming also practiced the same policy. It wasn't a law, but it was a policy as established through a court order, or a court settlement, I should say. I don't believe they're doing it too much now, and so we've got a lot of work to do. Well, first thing, I would love to see it be the county commissioners. The county commissioners should be supporting their sheriff with proper legislation or resolutions to have him enforce the Constitution. So if they pass a law saying, federal government, let's say they have this H.R. 45 that Barack Obama's trying to shove down our throats right now, to have a national registry for firearms and firearm owners in this country, and to have a national licensure granted from Washington, D.C. to keep and bear arms, which is already guaranteed in the Second Amendment. Let's say that that is really going to be pushed, and the federal government is going to come out and perhaps confiscate weapons and or ammunition. So what does the local authority do? Well, the county commission passes a resolution saying that there will be no more federal gun control in this county, and the sheriff enforces it. And so when the feds come in, the sheriff stands. He shouldn't need that resolution, but it would be nice to have it, because the Second Amendment is there, and he's already sworn, we're back to that again, he's already sworn an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, of which the Second Amendment is a part, is a key integral part of the freedom as established by our founders. And why was the Second Amendment put there in the first place? Well, that's what we need to all understand. The intent of the Founding Fathers on the Second Amendment was so that the people of this country would have the final say in controlling their government. And the ultimate power of the Second Amendment is that the people remain in charge to be able to fight off abusive government. That's why the Second Amendment's there. So yeah, and the other one that really needs to back the sheriff in what's going on is the county attorney. It's not essential to have those others. The sheriff can do it on his own. He doesn't need to ask permission of anybody in the county or across the country. He doesn't need to ask the barber down on Main Street or anyone else how he's going to keep his oath of office. He's bound by his word, and he's also bound by the Constitution.
Okay, so that was part one, actually. There's actually more of that. But I have another video that what do you think, Joe? You think, I don't know if we're gonna have time. You think we'll have time?
Well, we can play that after. We can talk. And
okay. Well, what we're gonna do, you know, before we get into our big conversation here, just bear with me now. We have we're gonna be actually having little breaks in between our speaking, just to have promos, and I figured I'd play a promo here and try one out. And I'm going to play a promo here that's coming up for Sunday, I believe. All right, so let me put a promo up here, see how it works for my first time doing this. I hope to see if I can do a couple tonight.
Hi, this is Susie Q. Tune in Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern for my show, The Patriot Dame, on the American Nationalist Net.
Okay, so you can take this. There's a couple points I took notes on that, but anyway, go.
Well, I was going to go into the you know, where the sheriff came from and how we got to where we are with the sheriff. And I don't think a lot of people realize that the office of sheriff, it dates back over 1,000 years. It goes back. You probably remember the sheriff of Nottingham, and so in the early stages of the 11th century, the king, this is when it first happened, the king would appoint a representative called a reeve, R-E-E-V-E, and his job was to keep the peace of So anyways, the sheriff goes back to the 11th century. He was appointed by the King of England at first, and then finally he became appointed by the people himself. And so when we looked at the words shire, reeve, and shire, we can see where we got the word sheriff, and that's how we got that word. So what eventually happened is that the sheriff now became elected by the people. Now this is really interesting because a lot of people who work for the federal government and all that stuff, they're not elected. They're put in their jobs, whereas to have a person who's elected, there's a little more power there, to be able to be free from governmental intrusion. So in that case, it seems like that would be a good idea, and that's why the sheriff's office is the last bastion of hope for us Americans in America here, because it's the last stop to stop government abuse, tyranny, and all that. So, anyways, that's where we stand with the sheriff's office. Now, the problem is, like for instance, he doesn't go into this in his videos here, but Sheriff Ma was talking about. He wrote a book called "The Country Sheriff: America's Last Hope." And that's really not a long book. It's only like 49 pages long, but he goes into the how he became a cop, and he mentions that the county sheriff is our nation's last line of defense, and so he goes into when he became a sheriff and how, for instance, I'll give you an example. Like he brings out, you probably remember some of these events. It says of police misconduct. For instance, we remember back in the 1970s, Kent State University, where the police or the state people shot on people and killed one of the students. That happened in 1970. We had the murders at Ruby Ridge in Idaho in August of 1992. And then we had the murders at the Davidian compound at Waco, Texas, April of 1993. Now, let's just talk about the Waco situation. I mean, they turned that into the biggest boondoggle mess I've ever seen in my whole life. That whole situation could have been settled so easily by just the sheriff going to the house, talking to the people, and saying this, what's going on here and this and that. What happened there was my rage. It can't be held for what they did there. I mean, they brought in the armies, they brought in the SWAT teams. See, and all it was, as far as I'm concerned, was just to test all their equipment, to see how everything worked.
Let's see how far they could go.
Right, to see how, well, first of all, I'm talking about strategically, the equipment-wise. They wanted to see how their walkie-talkies work. One of the biggest things, with the fire departments and the police departments is they're not all on the same channel. I mean, literally and figuratively. It's a real complicated process for them to all be together to make decisions on what to do. And so even today, they don't have a real answer to how to solve that problem. So if you want to make $1 million, devise a system where they're all on the same, frequency or whatever. But anyways, as far as I'm concerned, the Waco situation, if the sheriff was doing his job, now think about it. You had the ATF there, you had local police, you had military, this and that. And if the sheriff was doing his job to protect the people now, remember, the sheriff's job was there to protect the people. All he had to do was talk to them. But nope, they had this happen. And then we had gunshots fired and this and that. And then we had tanks coming in. And all this was a slaughter by our government. People think our government is just so wonderful. They wouldn't do a thing like that. Well, why is it our government is the one that's always coming in and killing all the people with these raids, or this silliness? So in that instance, what we had there too is they wanted to confiscate children and this and that, and you have this a legal regress for that, the courts, and so it just shows you how far people can go. but the sheriff can step in and say, nope, this isn't going to happen here. He could have told the the SWAT teams and those agents, see you later. And that was the problem there, and that's what happened. So anyways, if you notice too, like what Sheriff Mack talks about, he talks about the oath to the Constitution. Now, I have a lot of different viewpoints on the Constitution. Personally, I mean, without getting into another topic, but I will mention it. Our Constitution, was heading in the right direction, but if you look at it from a Christian viewpoint, it says that they swear it's supposed to be the supreme law of the land. Now, come on, really, let's think about it. What is the supreme law of the land? It's not the Constitution. It's God's word. It's the Bible. It's God. This should never have even happened in the first place. But so you could almost say the biggest apostasy happened when they said the Constitution was the supreme law of the land. There's nothing we can do about that now. Of course, I think what's happening now is we're suffering for that because we didn't take a stand biblically on godliness. And what happened was with the Constitution, and I'll just mention this too, is when all the states have their all constitutions. Massachusetts has, I believe, one of the oldest ones, and you had Rhode Island and Connecticut and all that, and they all have their constitutions. And what's happened back in the late 1700s, when quite a few Jews started coming into the areas, they realized in the Constitution there was a thing called an oath of office. They had to take an oath of office, and all towns, all counties, if you became anybody that worked or had a job, a selectman or this or that, or whatever the job was, you had to swear an oath to principles of Christianity, and that went out the window when the Jews decided to say, well, gee, we're Jewish, we don't believe in Jesus Christ, and that messed everything up here. So anyways, that's the mess that caused. But let's work on the Constitution, since now people have to swear an oath to the Constitution. It's the supreme law of the land, so that's where we stand. That's the backbone of where we stand as to laws and the principles of those laws. And so what's happened is, and Sheriff Mack realizes too, is you're swearing an oath to protect the Constitution. Now, what does the Constitution protect? Well, the Constitution protects free speech. It protects, we can redress our government, and we can do all sorts of things. The Bill of Rights was put in there. A lot of people weren't going to sign the Constitution unless they put it in a Bill of Rights. That Bill of Rights doesn't protect the government. It protects us from the government with our unalienable, it's not inalienable, it's unalienable rights. In other words, these rights aren't foreign. These rights are given to us by God. Free speech, to be able to say, talk, do things, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. These things are given to us by our Creator to enjoy. And when a state or government intervenes into those affairs, then they are violating the oaths of the Constitution that we swear to. So they swear to these oaths, yet they violate the constitutional rights of people, which is the problem that Sheriff Mack encountered. Now, I think if you remember, he was talking briefly, he said a couple of things I thought that was really interesting. He said, the president cannot tell the sheriff what to do. Can you imagine that? So something happened in the county, which is the domain of the sheriff. Nobody can tell the sheriff what to do as long as he's in his domain. He could tell, like I said, he could tell the ATF, he could tell the IRS, he could tell anybody, leave. And that's what they're supposed to do. The problem with the sheriff today is that we see them outside directing traffic or doing little piddly stupid things.
Well, with the sheriff department, I don't know where it is anywhere else, but in Massachusetts anyway, what they've done with the sheriff department, they've put them in charge of the penal system,
Right.
the courts, and
lockups,
all that type of stuff,
bringing people to court.
Correctional institutes, and all that. So that's it's almost like they've been kind of pushed into that area to keep them busy doing that, and they're plenty kept busy doing that. And also, you have to remember, the sheriff, his budget comes from the state and the governor and all that. So he kind of has to toe a light line here, because he doesn't want to upset them, which it shouldn't happen. In other words, he should be able to get what he wants, to do the job he wants, without it being a political job. It's become a political job, because especially in Massachusetts, the Democrats run the whole state. So he has to be of the Democratic Party, more or less. There are a couple of sheriffs that aren't, but they're kind of like the oddball sheriffs. They kind of stand out like sore thumbs. And you'll notice in Massachusetts, they will cut their budgets down. Those Republican sheriffs, they'll do things to them because they are not involved with the Democratic Party in the state. So you see how it works? It's all political. It's become a political thing. So the sheriffs don't have as much power as well, let's put it that. They have the power. They just don't exert the power because they don't want to step on anybody's toes, because then they'll be ostracized or whatever will happen to them because of doing that. So,
well, I don't think they realize their power.
Well, that's the problem too. I don't think a lot of them know what the heck they.
I mean, if you gave them this book by by Sheriff Mack, I can guarantee you nobody would know what the heck he was talking about.
Right.
So I mean that's the situation. I think an interesting thing about Sheriff Mack, which most people maybe don't know, is that he is a Mormon. And the Mormons are very, very high into the Constitution. They believe, from what I've studied, that Constitution is a divine document, basically. So, I mean, I agree that they're standing up for the document and all this, but I mean, I don't think it was divine, and I think, like I just mentioned before, it went a little bit haywire, and we lost control of our Constitution. I mean, if the Mormons want to think that, I mean, that's up to them. But in this book, he brings out an interesting point. He brings out the Davidian compound, but he also brought out something here that, like 400, let's see, 450 children of the FLDS families had their kids taken away by the Child Protective Services of Texas. So obviously you can see he's bringing up stuff that happened to the Mormons. And what he was saying is, we do not confiscate children when there is no probable cause or imminent danger. So the situation would have been, like, let's say when that happened, I remember that too, they took busloads of kids away from the parents and this and that. And he said, like I said, you don't confiscate children. And the sheriff could have stopped that. And he's absolutely, totally right seeing that happen. But the sheriff, he just was a little wannabe in that little instance, and he let it happen. And he let this abuse. And it was, what that sheriff let happen there was a violation of his oath of office. See, that's the point that Sheriff Mack is trying to bring out to these people. You're letting people get arrested. You let them be thrown in jail, and for what? You know what I'm saying? So he says, and so, quite a few times in this book, he brings up about the oaths of office that they take. I was going to read something here. Oh, yeah, this was a good point. He says, America probably could use more Texas roundups, not of innocent citizens, but of government officials who abuse their authority, trample the Constitution, and turn their backs on the people they are serving. America does not need more politicians or cops. We need statesmen and peace officers. When we return to the principles of liberty that the founders established for us, America will once again be the land of the free and the home of the brave. So I totally agree with that. I would have no problem seeing officials arrested and lined up and have them thrown in jail for violating their oaths of office, because you've got to remember, when these people go into office, they have to take an oath of office. Didn't we have an oath of selectmen when
well, you have a brief one. It's real short.
It said, didn't it say Constitution?
I think so. I'm not sure.
I think when we became town meeting members, we had to take a little brief oath of office, and I thought it said to defend the Constitution too. I'm pretty sure.
I can't remember.
Well, of course, now that they kicked us out, we won't see one of those.
It makes no difference in this town. Anyway. they don't abide by the Constitution anyway.
They don't believe in the Constitution anyways. So, anyways,
and getting back to again, Massachusetts, the way they do things is a lot different than these other cities and towns and counties. It mentions here, Sheriff Mack was saying about the governor. Even the governor can't supersede the sheriff. As long as the sheriff is upholding the Constitution and it's a law based on the Constitution, then the sheriff can do it. So the governor can tell him to do something. When we had the marathon bombing situation there, the sheriffs should have just told all those agencies to get out of here. I mean, this you have no business being here. We'll investigate it, but that's not how it worked. So they just kind of capitulated. They gave in, and it's a shame. The cowards.
I'll just bring up a little bit about what happened with him. You remember? I mean, he's just a little guy, going to the Supreme Court to fight a case. His case had to do with the Brady Bill. Now, if you remember in the Brady Bill, that was it was passed by Congress, signed into law by President Clinton, and that law literally forced each sheriff to become a pawn of the federal government and to do their bidding to promote gun control within our jurisdictions. He said the Brady Act contained a provision to arrest us if we fail to comply. Him saying arrest the sheriffs if they fail to comply. So what happened was that they took this up and they sued brought it to the Supreme Court. And on December 4th, 1990, on June 27th, 1997, the Supreme Court ruled that the Brady Bill was in fact unconstitutional, and that the federal government could not command state or country offices for federal bidding. In other words, so basically what happened here is, and he brought this up in the video we played previously, he talked about state sovereignty. The Constitution has its own laws and all that, but it also said the things that the Constitution doesn't talk about is left up to the states to decide. And that's called state sovereignty. In other words, we technically have two governments. We're supposed to, okay? Not that it's working that way. We're supposed to have two governments. The federal government works in its own issues, and then whatever's not covered by the federal government, technically, we have state sovereignties. And this was the issue of the whole Brady Bill, the whole Brady Supreme Court decision. It had to do with state sovereignty. I don't think most people realize that. And so that's why the states, even before we get to the sheriff, they have things that they can do on their own that the federal government shouldn't really have no business in. And so when they went to the Supreme Court, they won this, which was a really big thing. So it says here, the federal government may not compel the states to enact or enforce a federal regulatory program. So that's something that is now constitutionally protected, but whether it happens, that's another story. So anyways, so that's what happened there. That was a big issue. I mean, that's why the Supreme Court, the gun stuff and all that was an issue too, but this had a bigger issue. What can the federal government tell the states to do? So anyways, it brings out about the sheriff, about checks and balances. The reason we have a government the way we have it is we have three agencies of government, and they all are supposed to be checks and balances on each other. And this is good. But the problem is, what's happening now is the federal government is becoming a bureaucracy in itself. It's becoming too big. and it's feeding on itself.
Well, the states feel like they're powerless against the federal government because, of course, the federal government has all the armies behind them, and you know. But I just thought it was good in that talk by Mack, there, Sheriff Mack. He said that the Minnesota sheriff, he just said no. I mean, you know, he wished they said no. They wouldn't have had to brought them to court.
Yeah.
If they just stood their ground, the Minnesota sheriff stood his ground, and we got to give him credit. So anyway, that was really good.
This is an interesting point. He said, instead of government based on principles of personal choice, individual accountability, and self-determination, corporations and bureaucracies run America today with complete complicity from our Congress. He says, America is turning into a socialistic, democratic dictatorship. And basically that's what's happening in this country. Of course, we know that these countries is being really taken over by the Jews. They're in everything. I mean, there's nothing. We are in the same place that the Weimar Republic was in Germany when Hitler took over. You know, like I said, Berlin was a city of filth, homosexuality,
decadence.
Yeah, it was just one decadent place. And this is what people had to look forward to when they went to Berlin. When Hitler technically took over, they got rid of all that. And I'm not surprised that the Jews weren't too happy with that, because a lot of them ran these businesses and they were involved in all these little scams and things like that.
Okay, we're back here. Let's move on. I wanted to talk about. Do you want to get into the Oath Keepers? Remember, you know, a little bit about that, because see, the sheriff. I noticed Sheriff Mack is very big into the Oath Keepers, or in other words, getting all these law enforcement people, you know, onto this thing about the Constitution and you know, abiding by the oaths they're taken as law enforcement officers. So whether you're sheriffs, whether you're, you know, police officers, I mean, there is a difference, you know, between the two. We just explained that in regards to the police department. Everybody thinks the police department there is to serve and protect. Well, they're not there to serve and protect. They're there just to protect the interest of the town government and whoever is running that town government. Okay, and making sure people aren't breaking the laws and all that. That's true. But they're not there to serve and protect you. Okay? That's not what they're there for. Everybody thinks that the cops, you know, they're a phone call away and they're going to protect you. If they're around, they might be around to help you, but that's not why they're there.
Well, I think personally the police are what I call the gotcha police. Instead of serving and protect and help people, they are the gotcha police. Oh, we got you speeding. Oh, we got you doing that. Oh,
well, also too, the police departments are what they call revenue departments. In other words, they make money by arresting people, by bringing people to court, and it's just one big game.
Well,
works.
That's what Sheriff Mack brought out in the beginning of his book. He said he had to get 35 tickets a day to meet his quota, and speeding tickets and all that, and that was bringing in revenue. And he's saying, why am I doing this job? This is the purpose of a sheriff, to get revenue, to get people speeding, to catch them speeding. And he had to take a look at himself, and he had to start looking to the early forefathers and what they stood for. And he had what's called an epiphany, I guess. But so basically that's what happened. And that, of course, the police today, I don't know if they tell them.
Well, again,
to get tickets.
The police. Yeah, they have quotas and things, but again, they're there to bring in revenue and to keep themselves working. That's how it works. The police departments, you know, instead of cutting down, they become bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the reason why they become bigger, because now you get the drugs, the more police. I mean, it all feeds itself. So, you know, if you could live in a town that had 50 police, okay, or a town that had 2 police officers, what town would you rather live in? All right? I mean, think about that. Someone might say, oh, the 50 because, they're protecting us. No, 50 police would mean you're having problems with the people, with what's going on there. I'd rather live in a town with 2 because it would show you at least there's not as many problems. But it's just the system today, the law enforcement system today has just gotten so out of hand, and it's become a revenue-generating system, and it all feeds off of drugs, it feeds off of all these problems, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's not there to protect the people and to help the people, and that's what I have a problem with. And getting back to the Oath Keepers.
Well, yeah, but let me, okay.
Well, I wanted to finish it.
I know, but I want to tell you where the Oath Keepers comes from.
Right.
The Oath Keepers comes from a provision in the Constitution, Article 6, Paragraph 3, which states clearly, all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support the Constitution. And that's the quote. And then just going on. Sheriffs are part of the executive branch of government. So here's where the Oath Keepers come in and what Jimmy can talk about.
Well, I mean, I think it's great that you're getting men who want to be constitutional law enforcement officers who would obey the law. But I think the problem that we find that we're seeing with the Oath Keepers is they've been hijacked by the Jews. Yeah, I mean, it seems like the Jews have.
Well, what have they done?
Well, no, but the point is they haven't gone anywhere, and the fact that they haven't gone anywhere, they haven't made enough noise, they haven't, really shake the trees here to get people their views noticed. So there's where the problem is. Every organization that gets going gets infiltrated by the Zionist Jews, who that's all they want to do. They don't care if the organization exists. What they want to do is they want to keep the organization at bay and not progressing any further, okay? Because if the further they progress, they're going to be coming after them at some point in time. Then that's what they don't want. And it really bothers me to see all these organizations, just getting taken over by these people, these, Zionist Jew plants.
Well, we try to be, not too... what would you say in the public? I mean, we try to keep back a little bit, but when you see these organizations like Oath Keepers and this and that, if we get into conversations with these people, like about, hey, what do you think of Israel? Oh, we should support Israel and this and that. I was like, oh my God, if that's the way the Oath Keepers think, then why their oaths are worthless.
Right. Well, that's the problem. See, what happens is, we get a chance to mingle with all these groups, and we find out when we get in there that there's people in those groups that they're the people that you don't want in those groups, okay? Because they're defending things that we feel aren't right.
Well, let's go. We'll go into a little bit with the SWAT.
Good.
Okay, now let's take this further. We have, and we talked about this briefly, but we have SWAT teams, okay? And the SWAT teams now are slowly coming into counties and of course in Framingham, you got to look at things. In Framingham, we have a Jewish police chief. That Jewish police chief is working with the ADL. We tried to pin him down at the town meeting to discuss certain things, and he was not happy, right, Jimmy?
Yeah.
But did you ask him about the ADL?
Well, we've tried to pin him down on a bunch of things. He just doesn't want to.
Okay, so he's the one who, contrary to what people really want to hear, is when traffic happens at one of the temples in the town, they'll send they send a policeman over to check.
Wellness checks.
Wellness checks.
On the
Imagine that, going over to the temple, the Jewish temple. Does he do it for the Catholic Church?
No, just the Jewish temple.
Just the Jewish temple. He sends a cop over there. Does he charge him for it?
Nope.
Yeah. So that shows you where things are in this town. Okay, wellness check of one religious building, I suppose. I suppose
they check them all, I believe.
Do they check all the religious?
No, all the Jewish temples.
Oh, all the Jewish temples. Oh, how convenient.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we have a SWAT team in our town, and recently, and this just happened yesterday, an article came out in the newspaper because we had an incident where drug dealing was taking place at a house. They did a sting and they realized these people were selling drugs, cocaine, they had some two people say, okay, well, this is where the house is, and this and that, and so the Framingham police, with their wonderful SWAT team, they have to go test everything out. They realize, well, this is dangerous. These guys have guns, and they have guns. We're going to have to go in there with the SWAT team. Well, at midnight, they went in there with the SWAT team, broke the door down, got the people on the floor, and one of the guys on the floor, Yuri Stamps, one of the SWAT guys, was checking the back room and all that, came over to him, and when he went over to him, his gun went off, shot Yuri Stamps, and killed him. So what happened is Yuri Stamps, did it go out? No. Yuri Stamps was shot and killed by the SWAT team. And of course, now remember, the SWAT team's been used 3 times, and 1 time somebody got killed. So there's a 33% record that the SWAT team has. So in this article in the newspaper that was yesterday, it was saying wrongful death case in Framingham police shooting closer to trial. And the officer, his name was Officer Paul Duncan, and they're suing the town, for what happened.
Wrongful death.
With wrongful death, and I don't blame them. And so what happened is, we put articles. I put an article in the newspaper about this article. I said the SWAT team should be dismantled. I says what's happening with the SWAT team is that they're sending a couple of the officers in all these towns with the help of the ADL in the background. It's probably not costing Framingham anything, and they're sending these people to Israel to get trained by the Israeli Defense Forces. Now, really, let's think of this. The Israeli Defense Forces, what are they noted for? Well, they're noted for the tremendous abuse of the Palestinians. UN, United Nations abuses, where things have been written. I don't know how many.
Oh, over 50, I think.
Right. So they're being trained by people that kill the Palestinians, put them in jail, torture them, use SWAT tactics to come in, break down the door, wake people up at midnight, startle families, kids, little babies, children, it doesn't matter, and come in there and just ravish. It's hard to. So they're getting trained by these people, and we're just saying this should stop. This is outrageous. So my point of comparison is here. Here we have constitutional protections with the sheriff and what he's supposed to do his job. Yet we have the SWAT team that can come in there and violate your civil rights and your constitutional rights. And if the sheriff had anything to say, he should stop these SWAT teams. But then the sheriffs are part of the SWAT teams, right?
They could be.
Some counties, the sheriffs are.
Yeah, they might
bring in the SWAT team.
Might be. It's so goofed up today.
It's terrible. So this is something that's happening in all. And just recently, I just got an email coming from New Hampshire that they were saying that they want to give New Hampshire a SWAT truck. They want to give them 200. Here it is. Here it says Granite State Patriots Liberty PAC. And then the guy's name is Jack Kimball. He's up in New Hampshire. He ran for, I believe, mayor and he lost. But he's sort of like a patriot. And he said that they want to give the city of Concord a Homeland Security grant for $258,000 for a Bearcat, a ballistic engineered armored response counterattack truck. It's called a Bearcat. And so what they're saying, what Jack Kimball is saying, is that they want to have a demonstration with signs, because this is going to take place Monday, August 12th, and they want to do a demonstration, signs, speeches.
They already did it.
Oh, okay. That's right. It already happened. And they were going to protest this. Remember, now they're throwing $258,000. People are going to say, "Whoa, wow, this is terrific," but they don't understand. These people that are giving them this money for this truck, the people that are going to be in this truck are going to take away your civil rights, your constitutional rights, they put you in jail and possibly kill you. They don't get it. They don't just get it. And so that's what happened there. They already had this meeting. I don't know what happened. I haven't got an email since. I know in our town, when this SWAT thing happened, terrible thing. It was just terrible. They have a Framingham Citizens Committee on the police and the community. Of course, we got these jerky wannabes on this committee, some of the black pastors.
Yeah, we didn't mention that the guy that got shot, Yuri Stamps,
Yeah, he was black.
He was black.
He was a black man.
But anyway, that's a whole other story, you know. But that thing is, you know, like all when all shootings, okay, by the police department, they're very protective in how they cover these things up.
Oh, they're never wrong.
Yeah, I mean, they're always right. But here's what I notice about the police. I think they must learn this in police school. If you're going to shoot somebody, make sure you kill them.
Yeah.
Okay? Because, you know, dead men tell no tales. So I think that's what they tell them. If you're going to shoot somebody, you better make sure he's dead. Because, you know, we don't want him coming back later and saying this or that. And in the next town over, just a couple of weeks ago, we had a kid shot by the police. And that's a whole other case that's going to be coming to court at some point in time. You know, because we have a lot of various stories on that one, what happened there. The police's viewpoint of what happened, and, of course, the people involved with it. One girl, what happened, what she said.
Well, she's going to have a different story from that.
She has a different story. But what they do is everybody shuts up, no one says nothing, the police cover it all up, and hopefully they want you to forget about it, just like this Yuri Stamps case, because that's been going on for a couple of years, right?
Right, yeah. If you want to read a good article, there's a Wall Street Journal article called Rise of the Warrior Cop by Radley Balko, B-A-L-K-O. When you print it out, it's like 5 pages. It gives a good history of the SWAT teams and how they came in. Yuri Stamps is actually mentioned in this article, and you know, and what happened, and other instances of abuse and what's happened, quite contrary to what the sheriff's office is supposed to be doing to protect the people, to protect the Constitution, to protect our rights and all that, and it's not happening. I'm just telling you that much.
All right. Well, anyway, we only have about a minute left. Hopefully, you know, you folks appreciated show tonight. We hopefully showed you the difference between the police and the sheriffs and how much power the sheriffs do have, because they do have a lot of power today. It's just a lot of people, they don't understand what power they do have, and it's really a shame. But, you know, hopefully some of these sheriffs are going to get on board with Sheriff Mack, and, you know, maybe with this Oath Keepers things, hopefully that can do something, but I'm not too hopeful about it. But we'll have to see about that. You know, it's a sad situation there. You know, we think they've been hijacked, but anyway, that's whole nother story. Well, anyway, that's pretty much it for our show. Next week we'll have another show for you. And anything else, Joe, you going to conclude with?
Well, no, it's just that this all has to do with tyranny, and you know, you're seeing the takedown of America, and you know, more things are going to happen, just disgusting things, and we have to stand up for our rights.
Right, right. Well, anyway, that's pretty much it for our show tonight. We appreciate you tuning in and listening. Next week we'll see you in another show. Again, see you now. Bye.
Hello, hello. I bid you welcome, hope you enjoy the show. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Claim your fortune, tell me what you've been sold. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello.
Hello.